good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Hopefully, you're all watching and seeing this. As a quick brief, don't forget that the full weight of the American, well, not the full, well, it is the full weight if you want to take it that way. Full weight of the American military is currently sitting in the Middle East. There have been various different elements going on, but the reason why I'm going to talk about the Middle East is because of the amount of conversations I've had about President Trump making technically a derogatory comment that was directed at British forces, in particular in Iraq, Afghanistan, right? As the beginning of this shows, and I think I should be able to show it for everyone. Let me just see if I can pull it up on the screen while I'm talking. Hopefully you will see it. Let me see where it is. President Trump has said, don't want that one up. Let's see where I can find it. I can't find it, but everyone's aware that President Trump, or it calls the mini for because somewhere in, I think it was 547 of our troops died. But I had a conversation with a number of people who said, and I agree, that he wasn't popping off the UK forces. He was having a pop. By the way, we was second only to the American losses, right? There were places in Afghanistan where no one wanted to go, right? Helmand Province is one of them, and proper men went in there. The British, and I remember some years ago, a long time ago now, that when Tony Blair was Prime Minister, believe it or not, and our soldiers were driving around in Iraq with Land Rovers, like snatch vehicles from Northern Ireland, with canvas backs on them. They didn't have any armor plate or protective gear for themselves. And I wrote a letter to Tony Blair. I remember writing the letter. I remember being angry about the letter because all I was seeing was Tony Blair being driven around London and other places in a bulletproof, bomb-proof Range Rover, paid for by the public, being escorted everywhere by armed police, etc. in London, not in a war zone, in London. He ended up creating a war zone in London. But and in my letter, that's exactly what I said. I said, these troops have got no protection whatsoever to enemy fire or EIDs, right? And yet you are driving around London in a bulletproof Range Rover, bomb-proof Range Rover with armed protection, and I just think that's disgusting. Why don't you donate your Range Rover to the chaps out in the field, right? And I got one line back from number 10, right? This is true. One line back. And it said, thanks for supporting our troops. Basically mocking me, right? That was probably one of the very, very few letters I've ever written to a Prime Minister. But what I'm trying to say is, even then, I still say this is wrong, right? What you're doing now is putting our troops in harm's way. The major issue with what President Trump has stated, and he has now stated that he calls them the British, the English, Welsh, Scottish, Irish, Cornish troops are warriors, right? And the majority of them, I absolutely believe they are, right? What I mean is the ones dressing up in skirts, I don't consider them to be warriors. I think they're a pain in the arse and should never, ever be anywhere near a military uniform, right? But the point is, President Trump, in effect, did put a statement out on Truth Social and on Twitter. And I know it was a few days ago. I set this up because I wanted to actually talk about that, right? Lots and lots of different people have said to me, "Yeah, you support Trump, you support this, and you support that." Right? I'm going to go. Let me tell you something now. Right? President Trump is the only president I've ever seen go into a hospital and where a man has got no legs and arms and is sitting there pretty fucked up. His communication method was to touch his face. Right? I've never seen anyone do that before out of this groups of people. He is not a politician, he's a businessman, and he is a Christian, right? There are lots of different things being said currently, and I am seeing, so I'm going to go back to that particular tweet where it appeared he was having a pop at English soldiers, right? He wasn't. He was directly attacking the British regime, NATO, and the idiots in NATO. He was also directly attacking the command structures and the political bullshit behind it, because he's handed over his military to military people, right? He's renamed the Department of Defence as the Department of War, as it should be. And he's also stated on numerous occasions, you get peace through strength, right? That means if you're the biggest, the best, the most well-trained, as the British used to be, right? That's it. But he is directly, he's the only person I know, he thinks about things in a different way. He is a businessman. He has got high IQ. He knows more about what's going on than everyone else. All of this information, and some information can be fed into him that is wrong. But he did stand up for the British troops. He did say, you know, second, don't forget, he's in America first. All these people out there bitching about President Trump, he's never said anything different. He said it's America first, the American people first. Now let's get back into a few other things. Everyone should have seen that the silver price went up to, I think it was £85 an ounce. So in other words, that little coin there is worth 85 quid. It's gone down a touch now. I think it's back down to 70. But the point is, it well and truly broke the $100 mark, right? It went up to, I think it was $118 an ounce. All of this is someone in the background is fighting to keep the silver price down, right? I believe it's the banks. I believe that Trump is on our side, and one of the reasons I believe that is he has already stated, and I just want to make sure everyone's clear on this, that we're going back to Main Street, not Wall Street, where the people share in the nation's wealth, but from a real merit-based, hard work-based, your money. He's already gone back to the real English system of trade, which is one of the reasons why England is hated so much by communism, is because England had a tariff system, right? And he's going back to that. He's saying what made England the greatest nation on earth will make us the greatest nation on earth, and everyone will share in that wealth. 84 spot. Yeah, everyone's looking at the share price. So if you bought a rather large amount of silver some time ago, you're doing very well, and I know people who have. But the main thing is, that Trump is about America first, right? Now, there was lots of things that were said a number of years ago about how he was going to change the world, etc. Well, he can change the world by changing the way America works. There's a few things I'm going to be talking about tonight, by the way. It's going to go to 1,000 unannounced in the next 4 years. Stevens Norman. I don't. I'm not going to speculate. I'm not into the financial markets as such. All I know is, well, I won't say what I know. But let's just say my assets are not in what most people think they're in. So again, don't forget, it's really important you like this show, right? It's really important that you share, right? So even if you're watching on catch up, share it. Even if you're watching now and you like it, if you're watching on catch up, like it. But crucially, don't forget to subscribe. This is the only channel that is purely dedicated to England, English law, English constitution, and the English people. There's plenty of others out there. BBC wouldn't go near us with a barge pole. GB News is about Great Britain. It is not about us, the English. And all I'm doing is saying that it's the only place that you can come to and have a discussion about England and the things that have gone wrong, or in lead and springs. Yeah. All my assets are in land and silver. Well, you should always diversify slightly. Is the most important thing. Never have all your eggs in one basket. And for this conversation, not that I'm giving financial advice. Silver and gold are the same basket. Let me make sure I've got everything. So is everyone now watching and hearing and seeing me? Exactly. Right. So there's lots and lots of different things I want to show you. But one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight, apart from President Trump, as in my opinion, put that right with the British troops, meaning the English, the Scots, the Welsh, the Irish, and the Cornish troops, right? And again, I want to make sure everyone's aware of this. Everyone keeps having a pop about Trump. You should be looking at England. Whilst we live on an island, England is a different nation to Scotland, right? And technically it's a different nation to Northern Ireland, which I believe should be fully independent and come under England's protection. There's lots of things that I can see that Trump is doing, especially with his Board of Peace, where I believe that they will remove the United Nations is just a bureaucratic nonsense. And he's getting business people and proper leaders with intelligence round the table to say, listen, we don't want to have a war, right? The last thing we want is war. This is what we need to do. How can we settle this? And you put all the minds together and they go, bang, 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 bang. And, right, okay, that's what we're going to do. Is that important? It is for a number of reasons. And then some people have said to me, well, the UK's not going to be in it. No, they're not, because they do want continuous war. And I'm going to show you a picture in a minute as well. The major point I'm getting at, let me... oh dear. Rob Young. We've missed the birthday of Rob Young. Let me mute that tab before I do anything else. I'm going to bring up that in a couple of seconds. But before I do, I'm going to bring this up because I think everyone should see it, right? And then we're going to sing Rob Young Happy Birthday. Or should we sing... Let's sing Rob Young Happy Birthday now. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday dear Rob Young, 60th birthday of Friday, happy birthday to you. Right, so there you go, Rob, I just sung you happy birthday, son, well done. And what I'm going to do now is show you this, hopefully. Where's it gone? I can't even see where my little mucker's gone. I'm going to show you something on WhatsApp, hopefully. Well, I took it off. It was out on Twitter, I believe. Hopefully you're seeing this on the screen. And it's really important that you understand what this is. Let's see if I can actually pull this back up. Right. So, let's see if I can hold it there. What an incredible snapshot of the past. Napoleonic war veteran Henry Maidment. Henry was an agricultural labourer who lived in the North Dorset village of Pimperne, which is still there, by the way. In 1866, Henry was one of the few surviving British Army veterans who had fought Napoleon Bonaparte's French army in the Spanish Peninsula War. At 83, he could not work and had hit hard times. He was surviving on a parish handout of just 2 shillings and 6pence, 12.5 pence a week, and a single loaf of bread. The octogenarian pauper had, in fact, a distinguished military record, but had left the army without a military pension. Henry Maidment fought in the battles of Talavera, Salamanca, Victoria, Pyrenees, Nivelle, and Toulouse. For this, he was entitled to the military cross with clasps. And by the way, just to make sure you've got this, let me make sure I've got nothing on my screen that I don't want on my screen. Let me put this up there. Clasps. Each of his major battles was represented by a clasp of ribbons, such as a medal was valued in 2006 to be worth £3,700. In August 1815, his battalion had been accompanied Napoleon Bonaparte into exile on the island of St. Helena, and I've spoke about that a few times. By 1868, Henry had died. He was buried on the 26th of March 1868 in the graveyard of St. Peter's Church, Pimperne. He had lived in an era when an agricultural labourer rarely left his home village. However, as a soldier, he experienced Ireland, Portugal, Spain and France, and would have visited cities such as Cork, Porto, Toulouse and Bordeaux, right? But let me just bring this image back up again on the screen. There he is. Can everyone see that fine? Just to let me see if I can bring it up a bit further, right? There he is, 86, I think he was then, right? And there's his wife next to him in their Sunday best, right? His hands are all wrinkled. He's old. He's still soldiered on. But the point I'm trying to make to you is, when I'm talking about this particular event, right? So I'm going to come off of there and go back to that. Can you all see that on the screen? President Trump, England, Scotland, Ireland. Nothing's changed, people, right? Our military forces are still, and again, I see something come up the other day about Northern Ireland and Ireland, and one of these, was it Colonel Kemp or what his name is, the British idiot that's still promoting the Commonwealth with Farage and everything else, right? And he was saying, we beat the IRA, we did this, we did that. And someone, I think it was Peter Hitchens, said to him, that's not quite true. He said, if you beat them, Why is it that you released them all from prison? Why is it that they're all getting paid salaries and all sorts? And by the way, there was a bank robbery in Ulster. I think they took $6 million in cash out of that, and they had to carve up with the IRA, right? But further to that, this Colonel Kemp, or whatever his name is, he's not even mentioned the fact that it's the British that are prosecuting our soldiers. Our British soldiers are being prosecuted for events in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Northern Ireland, right? And what I'm saying to you is nothing's changed. If you think about the First World War, where someone blew a whistle and they were supposed to go over the top, and if they didn't, they got shot. I've got to be honest with you. If you'd be sitting in a trench listening to a kid that had been standing next to you moments ago, or you knew in the trench, you was talking to him, conversation with him, and the next thing, out in that smoke-filled, muddy, terribly wet, horrible killing field, you can hear that same person screaming for his mother where he's so seriously injured and screaming in agony. If someone told you to go over the top knowing it was your certain death and you could be ending up screaming like that kid was, would you turn around and say, Foxtrot Oscar, shoot me in the head? I'm not doing it, right? And would you believe that was an act of cowardice, or was it a decision that anyone in his right mind would make? Do I want to be dying on that battlefield floor screaming in agony because of what these idiots behind me are doing, meaning the Ruperts, or do I want to die quickly and be taken off the planet in an instant with a firing squad? That's the decision, really. I don't know how people think about that, but my granddad was in the Second World War, so was his brother. His brother had his fucking lungs turned inside out by mustard gas. He never fully recovered, but he did come back from mustard gas. So again, when you think about all these things, what I'm saying is look at the screen. Look at these two real people from the 1800s. Look at what they did for England and how the British treated them in their retirement, right? Nothing has changed. In fact, I would say for some, it has got worse, right? Certainly the greed of the markets, the type of people that own and control the markets is a terrible thing, right? So I just want to know what you all think of that. So on the screen, is that legitimate piece of information that I've just shown you, right? And again, I'm going to go back. There's a few things that I want to show you. One way or the other, we've got to try and take back control of this country. I think anyone can see we're not going to do it with reform. Anyone that thinks that reform are not Conservative and Union Party Mark II, they most definitely are. And again, it's fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. No, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Right? It's not the first time Farage has done this, and I can't believe that people are now looking at this. So I'll do. Darren Grimes has sent this out on. It was originally sent out, I think, on Substack, but it may be his own website. The killer was 27. The system pretended he was a child. Before I go on with this, I want you to remember that I'm going to have to turn my tap off because it's dripping. And it's annoying me, dripping in the background. So hopefully you're seeing this on your screen. The killer was 27. Now, when going back about to the Kosovo debacle, I, through one of my family, was at an event, a football team where all young kids, 12 and 13-year-olds, was playing football, and they was running a football team. And one of the kids that was playing football with the 12 and 13-year-olds was a Kosovan refugee who said he was 12 years old. Well, I can tell you now, he was in his 20s, right? And the people running the football team were teachers, and particularly one teacher from an East London school, where they went, no, he just looks older for his age. And they looked you straight in the face as if he was stupid. I mean, this 12-year-old was 6 foot tall, had extremely hairy legs, could grow a beard, right? Was muscular. And my own personal opinion of him on the pitch was he would be dangerous to little kids if he went in for tackles. And yet that was happening then, right? So all of that was just a trial run of what they was going to do. But this particular story, the killer was 27. The system pretended he was a child. The Home Office age scandal in the case of Rhian Sky White exposes everything wrong with Britain's asylum regime, right? This was put out on January the 25th. As regular readers will be aware, I am in contact with the family of the late mother, Rhian Sky White. I'm here to tell you once again that the system didn't just fail her, it spat in her family's face at every turn. Rhian was a 27-year-old mother with a 5-year-old son waiting for her at home. She spent her days cleaning and serving food at the Park in Walsall, a hotel the government saw fit to fill with vulnerable asylum seekers. On the 20th of October 2024, one of those guests, a Sudanese national named Deng Choi Majek, decided to track her like prey from his migrant lair. He followed her from her shift to Bescot Stadium Station as she chatted innocently to a friend on her phone and stabbed her 23 times with a screwdriver. The brutality is stomach-churning. 11 of those strikes were to her head. Where have we seen that before? While Rhian lay dying on a cold platform, Majek was busy throwing her phone into a river, buying a beer, and heading back to the hotel to sing and dance like he just won the lottery of life. But for the family, the hell on earth was just beginning. The great age lie. For months, the public had been asked to swallow an absurdity. Majek arrived in Britain via a small boat in July 2024 and immediately claimed he was a teenager. The system, ever eager to avoid the cruelty of scrutiny, accepted it at face value. Because he was treated as a child, he was placed in public accommodation with minimal checks, shielded by a regime that treats doubt as discrimination and skepticism as heresy. Even when confronted with foreign identity documents suggesting he was far older, after the rat race to enter Britain, Majek maintained the fiction. In court, he claimed officials had simply assumed his age and he had gone along with it. Must be British discrimination, right? A laughable defence, but one that forced Rhian's family to sit through a traumatic trial, watching a remorseless killer cosplay as a confused teenager suffering some trauma we in Britain could never possibly understand. The truth they didn't want you to know. Now, a close family member has revealed what the authorities refused to confront. 2 Home Office officials have now privately confirmed that Majek is in fact 27 years old, the same age as the young mother whose life he took. Not a child, not a teenager, a fully grown man. No scans, no tribunals, no bureaucratic rituals required, just 2 officials confirming the obvious, something the British state seemed incapable of doing. For months, this family has been forced to endure a grotesque charade in which the killer of their daughter was treated as a victim of a paperwork error. A sick circus in which he refused medical procedures to confirm his age, while the media gaze drifted on from the brutal murder of a young mother. A betrayal without apology. The ordeal this family has endured is the direct result of a system that prioritises ideological comfort over public safety. Because of this administrative cowardice, Rihanna's sister had to find the words to tell a 5-year-old boy that his mother was never coming home. They have had to fight for every scrap of truth while officials, activists and the usual lefty chorus looked the other way, terrified that acknowledging reality might offend someone. This isn't compassion. It's negligence dressed up as virtue. The final reckoning, Majek will be sentenced soon, possibly as early as this week after months and months of delay. He will finally face justice for the monster he is, not the child he pretended to be. But don't expect an apology from the people who waved him through, housed him, believed him, and defended the lie. They'll move on to the next cause. A family in Walsall is left to pick up the pieces of a life shattered by a screwdriver and a system that still refuses to see sense. I am grateful to them for confiding in me throughout this trial, and I ask God to help each of them as they try to live with a loss inflicted by someone who should never have been in our country. So again, for that particular piece, I'll send that out, copy. Let's stop sharing. I'll send it. Did everyone hear and see that? Yeah, let me see if I can go good for sharing is caring. Braverman, now I'm in Durham. Has Lowe got back to you, Graham? No, of course not. So sad. Yeah, everyone's just seen that. So all I'm doing is putting that out there so everyone can see it. Now, there's another one I want to show you. And I'll go back to that now. And there are some other pieces. That's the one I wanted. So I'm sort of going back into this arena. Hang on a minute. I will come back to that. Was line about. There's many things that are going on there, but I think the most important thing is to show you this one. And we are going to be talking about this because I think this is crucially important. So there's lots of things going on, and you also understand what's going on in Minnesota, right? Because if you don't, I'm now going to read out something that's on Twitter. When I first spotted it, I put it out there and said that's going on the show. About 4 hours later, Elon Musk tweeted it, right? But I want everyone to understand that Signal, in particular, is used by a number of different groups of people to communicate with each other because it's fully encrypted. But this is a bit different to that, right? Let me just show you this, because I think this one is crucially important that everyone gets what's going on. And I'm going to read this out, and hopefully you're all going to hear and understand exactly what's going on. A Minneapolis signal infiltrated. I have infiltrated organisational signal groups all over Minneapolis with the sole intention of tracking down federal agents and impeding, assaulting and obstructing them. Buckle up, all will be revealed, right? So this is a guy called Cam Higby, right, who is Special Forces. Each area of the city has a signal or several signals. Let's start with the screen recording, all members of the South Side group to start, right? So he's just showing you on the screen. That's the signal group. He's showing you on a thing what's there, right? But then he says this, or he doesn't. Someone else has put, this is what was retweeted by Elon Musk. And it is very, very important that people listen to this and understand what's going on, right? So I'm going to read this out to everyone. This is in the US, but it's also happening here, right? As a former Special Forces warrant officer with multiple rotations running counter-insurgency ops, both hunting insurgents and trying to separate them from sympathetic populations, I have seen organised resistance up close. From Anbar to Helmand, the pattern is familiar. Anyone watching this who's been in the military and served out there will understand what this guy is saying, right? Because this is where it starts. Familiar. Spotters, cutouts, dead drops, or modern equivalents. Discipline, comms, role specialisation, and a willingness to absorb casualties while bleeding the stronger force slowly. What's unfolding in Minneapolis right now isn't protest. It's a low-level insurgency infrastructure built by people who's clearly studied the playbook. In other words, they're trained. Signal groups at 1,000 member cap per zone, dedicated roles, mobile chasers, plate checkers, logging vehicle data into shared databases, 24/7 dispatch nodes, vectoring assets, salute style reporting. This is important. Military term, size, activity, location, unit, time, equipment. On suspected federal vehicles, daily chat rotations, and listen to this, timed deletions to frustrate forensic recovery. Vetting processes for new joiners, mutual aid from sympathetic locals, teachers providing cover, possible PD tip-offs on license plate lookups, police department that is, home-based coordination points, rapid escalation from observation to physical obstruction or worse. This isn't spontaneous outrage. This is C2, command and control, with redundancy, OPSEC hygiene, and task organisation that would make a Special Forces team sergeant nod in recognition. Replace ICE agents with occupying coalition forces, and the structure maps almost one-to-one. To early stage urban cells we hunted in the mid-2000s. The most sobering part, it's domestic. Funded, trained somewhere and directed by people who live in the same country they are trying to paralyse law enforcement in. When your own citizens build and operate this level of parallel intelligence and rapid response network against federal officers, complete with doxing, vehicle pursuits and harassment that's already turned lethal. You're no longer dealing with civil disobedience. You're facing a distributed resistance that's learned the lessons of successful insurgencies. Stay below the kinetic threshold most of the time. Force overreaction when possible. Maintain popular support through narrative and never present a single centre of gravity. So you never want a single point of failure, right? It's about cell structures, which is why I don't like being the centre of everything that's going on everywhere. Because if anything happens to me, right, which could, right, very likely will, it's very because all they know all they got to do is take that one person out, right? Even though we're non-violent and we're not doing what they're doing here. By the way, this similar thing was done when we arrested Sadiq Khan, and it was me that set most of that up. Not because I want escalation, but because history shows that these things don't de-escalate on their own. Once the infrastructure exists and the cadre believe they're winning the information war, we either recognise what we are actually looking at or we pretend it's still just activism. And again, I'm going to reread this piece because it's really important. Whether it be an insurgency or an invasion, you should recognise what you're looking at. And also understand that many of these people that are now invading this country have been trained and are in positions where this type of network, they will be highly organised against you, right? And bearing in mind, they are already in excess of our army. So we either recognise what we're actually looking at or we pretend it's still just activism until the structures harden and spread. You're cool, America, but from where I sit, this isn't January 2026 politics anymore. It's phase one of something we've spent decades trying to keep off our own soil, right? And someone's brought it onto your soil and our soil. And all I'm doing is just making sure that you understand that. Stop sharing and go back to the main screen. Does everyone understand what I just put out there? There will be military people out there listening to this, either today, tomorrow, that will go, yep, no, I completely get it, right? So all I'm doing is saying this was, and again, I'm going to put the whole thing out so people can get it. Let me go back into this one. There's so much to talk about tonight, it's unreal. I don't think I've ever seen anything, including what's going on or possibly about to go on with Iran. And there's lots of people attacking Trump. And what I'm saying, I believe all that's organised. And what I'm seeing is fuckwits being suckered into it in a pretty major way, to be honest with you. And again, whilst a protester was shot in Minneapolis, or he was an insurgent, right? And he was armed. I do want to make sure I make this very clear, right? Kash Patel has said something that I completely disagree with. You shouldn't be taking a firearm to a protest. You've either got a right to keep and bear arms or you don't, right? No one should be saying to you, if you're going on a protest, you shouldn't take your firearm. In fact, when there's going to be lots of people and potentially violence, I would have said it is a better place to have a firearm than it is not, right? The Constitution says shall not be infringed. It didn't say you can have a firearm, right to keep and bear arms, but not at a protest, and not potentially at people, and I'm only saying potentially, that could come at you. I've only, and again, I'm not an American, right? Obviously, but I am English, and I do understand the self-defense laws. It does look like he was disarmed before he was shot, but there are other things that can come into play with that. If he's got one gun, he may have two. I know many people in America that carry more than one gun. Was he going for his gun, or where he thought it would, where he knew it to be located and it had been disarmed? I don't know. But what I will say is this: there is a line, and self-defense laws cover everyone, right? Not just protesters and not just the police. We're all equal under the law. You don't get a pass because you got a badge. There is a set process. You get paid a lot of money to be in stressful situations and not just go around killing people, right? That said, this situation has been winding up, and the local authorities there, meaning the governor and his cohorts, have deliberately allowed it to wind up. And it seems and appears that some of these people in that local regime, if you want to call it that, are on them signal apps directing people, right? So that's all I'm saying, Joe. And it's exactly the same as what, and again, I want people to understand, you're either about the rule of law or you're not, right? So in a situation where a Pakistani Muslim broke a policewoman's nose in Manchester, he was then tasered, unconscious, on the floor, and then a police constable, whilst he was unconscious, so no longer a threat, drop kicked him in the head and then drop kneed him in the kidney, right? Both of them assaults were while he was incapacitated. What I at the time said, that clearly shows that level of force against an incapacitated man, known to be incapacitated, right, is unlawful. And I was vilified by the so-called far right, right? Be careful what you wish for, is what I'm trying to say to you. Because if you say that's fine because he broke a policewoman's nose, that's fine because he's a Pakistani Muslim, that is not fine. Because what you are doing is setting a precedent that when them people turn on you, and for whatever reason it is, you end up either being suffocated, killed, beat up. Look at what happened to Charlie Staples. Offered no violence whatsoever. They was choking him. They had him in a prone position with his hands behind the back. He offered no violence whatsoever, right? But there's some people out there that were pro-lockdown, pro-mask, pro-vaccine, even though it wasn't a vaccine. It was a gene editing therapy, and that was already stated by the manufacturers. It was not a vaccine. We've got that on record, right? They've actually said that, the manufacturers. It was the public. It was the projection of this bullshit that everyone saw. Some of them people are now amongst you, right? Yeah, we're with you, we're with you. They wasn't with you. They wasn't with us then. They wasn't with Charlie Staples. In fact, they were the very people saying, yeah, lock him up, lock them all up, put them in camps, right? People have got very, very short memories, and especially with the people that you're standing next to, right? So I want to be clear here, right, with what I'm saying. I do not give a monkeys if it's a Pakistani Muslim that's punched a policewoman on the nose and then gets tasered, is unconscious. The part where it becomes unlawful is when he is incapacitated, right? and you kick him in the head and you drop him in the kidney, that's unlawful violence, right? And if it had been one of you, a white Christian, standing outside an effing church, right, praying, or standing outside an abortion clinic, praying, and the police come along and tasered you, drop you to the ground because of the psychological injury you are causing to whoever by silently praying, by agreeing to that one with the Pakistani Muslim, you have agreed to that one, right? That's what I'm trying to say to you. Unlawful violence is unlawful violence. They get paid a lot of money. They get paid a pension. They get training. They have, and there was an excellent piece in one of the committee rooms in Congress where, I forget his name now, but I think he was a colonel in the Green Berets. And this police officer was rearing up at him. Everyone should have seen it. I can't remember the name guy, and I follow him. I can't remember his name. But he showed how calm he was. And he said, I've only said hello to you. What's your problem? Listen, I'm in complete control of my emotions. What is the matter with you? Right? And straight away, these nutters, right, start telling lies. You threatened to rape my kids, right? Biggest load of bullshit ever, right? People with who have mental issues, right? Especially narcissistic people, right? I seem to fucking attract them for some reason, right? They tell lies. And the oddest thing about it, the bit that I really don't get, right, is they will tell a lie for no reason whatsoever. You think, where did that come from? An obvious lie, and they will look at you as if you've got to accept that they're lying, right? That's what Ivan Rankin, that's it. Ivan Rankin, that's it. So does everyone understand what I'm trying to say to you, right? So on X, I've turned around and said, and so Kash Patel has turned around and said, you shouldn't be taking, and just to make sure I'm clear on this, right? As far as I'm concerned, Kash Patel is a recent second generation, maybe first, I don't know, immigrant into America. He clearly doesn't understand the Constitution. And that's the risk, right, of foreigners coming in. Because all of a sudden he's got the voice and the mouthpiece and he's telling Americans, white Americans, right, that you can't have a firearm and go to, and take your firearm to a protest. That's absolute fucking bullshit, right? This is how they start to take your weapons away, right? Cannot be infringed. That's what it says, right? Those officers there, and I'm not bitching, right, about they've put, I don't know how many shots into him. Most people carry more than one gun. That is a situation that I certainly wouldn't want to find myself in. But in America, it is different, right? Because everyone is aware the person you're now speaking to could have a gun on him, right? And I haven't got an issue with that in any way or form. It makes for a polite society, right? It lowers the crime rate, right? And it does lower the crime rate. I've got a book here called More Guns, Less Crime in its third edition. It is a fascinating read, right? Because all you need to do is respect the culture of the people, in particular be Christian, right? And follow the 10 commandments. I shall not murder, right? And what you've got is everyone's sticking to that Christian authority, and no one out there is saying to you, you cannot shoot someone in self-defense, right? If someone comes onto your property, it's your property. If you've posted it and warned people, do not come on. In America, I've said it before, I've seen landowners where the police have pulled up at the gate, right? Not walked onto the property, and they've said, we need to speak to you. And the guy will come out of his thing and say, Foxtrot Oscar, I don't want to talk to you, right? And then if they go and get a warrant, they'll come back with a fucking SWAT team if they have to, right? That is America. By the way, that's the way England used to be, right? I see another comment by Peter Hitchin in a spat with Carl Benjamin yet again. Carl Benjamin saying, I've been to America lots of times and blah, 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 blah. And then Peter Hitchin said something like, going out there and staying a few weeks and coming back is completely different to living there, right? Because then you get to know the people, you've got neighbours, you see how they think, you see how they operate, how the community thinks and operates. It's not like going on holiday somewhere. And he said, America is not like, Americans are not like the British. I agree. Americans are like the English used to be. Right? So an Englishman would have much more allegiance, a real Englishman, right, that absolutely understands his rights and his constitution and on all them elements and the liberties and freedoms and freedom of speech, etc., would be much more comfortable living in the United States of America than someone who is British, right? But the British is a Brit is not an Englishman. Everyone got that, by the way. And there is so much more that I want to talk about tonight. But let me have a look and see if we can go anywhere else. One video angle of the ICE incident seems to indicate the disarmament and the shot happened. Simultaneously. There's all different things, but they'll have hopefully have all of the video evidence that they need. They'll go through it, etc. But what I am saying is Kash Patel was wrong in what he said, and anyone telling an American, you and especially if you are an Indian FBI agent, even if you're head of the FBI, and you say you should not be taking your firearms to a protest, that's bullshit. That is absolute bullshit. There's a massive proof from the cams the ICE thugs were trained by IDF and failed Nazis. I'm not going to get into any of that. Most people understand my opinion on Israel and IDF and all them. They are terrorists, yeah, but you can't then turn around and say that all the ICE agents are trained by IDF and this and that, etc. Never trusted Patel. Well, again, I'm not getting into the major parts of that. I'm not an American, I'm an Englishman. We should be more concerned with England. We should be more concerned what just happened with Priti Patel and knows what else, and Suella Braverman or whoever it is, going into the Reform Party. People are just literally being conned. So let me make sure. I believe, I'm going to write this down so I can cover this off. And there's probably a lot to this. I'm only giving you my opinion to what I'm seeing, right? Everyone keeps saying to me, what the fuck is going on, DD? And I'm like, listen, this is so complex. There's so many different things going on. First of all, let me just say this. The book I've got upstairs, which I'm currently reading, which is this one here, right? Law and Custom and the Constitution, Anson, which is one of the most respected scholars of English constitutional history and law. That's from 1909. In the first, not even a chapter, the preface and the introduction of Volume 1, he tells you what the problem is, and he tells you how we got to the problem. And he's saying it in 1909, right? The party political system is the problem because the allegiance is to the party and to the party leader, not to the nation, right? And not to the constitution. right? In fact, some of the things, most of the things political parties are doing now are unconstitutional. We're the only ones who are different to that, right? Which we will have a later discussion on. Not yet, but we will have a discussion on the political party. So what do I actually think is going on? So I'm going to say a couple of things. First is the destruction of the old guard. Everyone should understand that term, and if you don't, it means taking down what was there and removing it. I believe that President Trump is now doing that with the United Nations. He has defunded 66 organisations directly funded out of the United Nations, and one of them was collecting information, and America had to report to the UN how many small arms they were manufacturing and selling to the public, right? And he basically said, "We're not doing that. It's none of your fucking business," right? And he's defunded 66 particular UN organisations, and it is highly likely he's going to take you. But you have to have something there, or the basis of something there, to replace, right, what was there. So he has come up with the Board of Peace, which I think is fantastic. Some people out there are saying it's disgusting and he's got Tony Blair on it. I think he's doing the same with Tony Blair as what he done with John Bolton. If he can put him on that board and put him there, he'll find out what's being said. And Tony Blair had a specific skill set, even though I think he stitched up the British and he stitched up Northern Ireland, right? And he did stitch Northern Ireland up, and he did stitch up the British troops, right? Tony Blair had a distinct way of diffusing the current violence, right? And he went, right, bang, 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 right? So you've got to have this other system in place before you even start. But I believe that part of this system is to take down, and don't forget, in America, you've still got independence, right? I believe that the Conservative Party and its donor system and its funding system and the system that enabled it as part of a bureaucratic fake democracy is being dismantled. Some people won't understand what I'm trying to say here, because I'll tell you something, you have to serious, and I'm not saying I'm any great thing. There's nothing special about me, but I'm thinking, but all they're doing is replicating the Conservative Party. No, they're not. They're taking out the structure. But what they're going to do then, I think something else will come in. And I think what you're going to end up, and again, I don't think the party system is the right way. I think the party system should be completely taken down, completely. I think we should go back to being fully English independence. We should go back. We should reinstate all of our industries. We should deport the majority of the people that are technically foreign in this country, right? And there are some that would stay, right? But you have to say the majority, because there's thousands, millions of people here that shouldn't be here, right? We haven't got an industry. They flooded a service industry with loads of different people. The service industry was really the banking system. The banking system is now bankrupt, basically. So what else do I see happening? The initial first phase of it, I would say there's going to be, I believe that reform will be, even though they regard themselves as centre-right, they're in effect going to be on the left. Right? I believe that the Labour Party, the Greens, and all these other parties, unless they cheat, which we all know they will, are going to be completely wiped out. in such a major way, they would never ever be in power again. I believe that the Fabian Society, people are now, I've been talking about these for 20 years, right? If you go back to various other things, I mean, we arrested him January the 13th, 2018. Sadiq Khan I'm talking about, at a Fabian Society event. And we could have done it again this time. But our group was infiltrated, majorly infiltrated. And again, we would have been far further forward if the momentum of that had carried on. Then they banned me on Facebook, they banned me on Twitter, they banned me on YouTube, etc. And again, going back to that tweet I read out, we was beginning to be highly organised, and the left started to infiltrate. I won't say the names of the people, but it was they destroyed it. They was just fucking idiots. So if you imagine reform technically would be that on the left party, which is what they're saying is centre right, you've completely got rid of the left. This is about the pendulum swinging back all the way over. And then you will have a position for another party or another way of doing politics, right? And I think that's where Rupert Lowe comes in. I think they're terrified of Rupert Lowe. The reason I think they're terrified of him is, one, he's got his own money. He's nowhere, and let me tell you something, he's nowhere near the character or mentality of President Trump. President Trump has brought tariffs in and has already said there's going to be no more income tax. We're building up every state in America to be self-sufficient, employment, full employment in this country. We are going to be this is going to be the golden age. He means it. He's already talking about, and again, Rupert Lowe isn't doing any of these things. Rupert Lowe isn't talking about bringing in investment, isn't talking about any of the things, because Rupert Lowe doesn't understand how Trump thinks, right? And Trump is a massive thinker on how do you get from A to B to C to D, right? And again, giving $2,000 refunds, or he calls it a dividend, right? Remember, I worked for an American company, where we were employee owners, right? We built a global telecommunications network, data centers, dark fiber, routing systems, everything. I loved it. That was my life, right? And again, it was when they brought in people in Europe from British Telecom that it all went pear-shaped, right? That was when I was like, what the fuck? I've got people with doctorates who don't even know how to put a circuit in. They were just idiots. That's the major difference between Trump and Lowe is it's off the scale with Trump. You can see how well planned it is. Getting back to why I think I've had some idiots on Twitter saying to me, you think Lowe can be prime minister? He ain't even got a party. The old way of doing politics in England, you didn't need to be in a political party. You could be an independent and be prime minister, right? These are people that are highly ignorant of our constitution, highly ignorant of how England was and could be again, right? That's the bit that frustrates me. You get complete idiots, and it's the idiocy of people that are reform. Oh, I'm thinking about my grandkids. What a load of fucking bollocks, right? So Rupert Lowe is the only person. I'm not saying he's perfect in any way or form. In fact, if he ever slags off the working class again, calling us indolent, right, when it was his class that fucked up this country, right, it certainly wasn't us that did it, because we didn't have our hands on the levers of power. Your fucking mob did, right? But I believe that he and I'm watching what he's doing, right, very carefully. He appears he has a strategy, and I can see what the strategy is. It's very and if I'm right, even if he could get 5, 10, 15 people elected, right, as independents, but associate, not a part of a political party, which is basically what we set up, right? What you need a brand, right? But you don't want a party that's got a manifesto, because it's all bollocks. You want people that are intelligent, that are fighting for their constituents, right? That's what it's all about. And I think so. I believe he has an expanded independence. If you got independence, enough independents up there, and enough people elected them, and you could get people to come out and actually vote again. I mean, well in excess of 40% of the public are not voting, right? You could easily. I mean, you would get a much more interesting debate from independents. But again, most people don't really. I mean, Reform, Chris Horborn or whatever his name is, put £20 million into Reform. And it's pocket change to him. It's nothing, right? There's people fucking starving all over this country. There's people living in cold places like I was the other night in here, right? There's people who are homeless. So I sort of get the frustration. We didn't do this to ourselves. You did it to us, right? And go back to that original picture of that old guy in 1866 that had fought in the Napoleonic War with his wife 2 years before he died. You know what I mean? Where he didn't have a pension, he had nothing. He was relying on the support from the parish. And by the way, the British today, the Soviet system wants to remove the parish system, wants to remove all of that, our structures. That's what the administrative states, the 9 regions of England are about to. There won't be an England left. It's gone completely. Bye. Right? That's what they're doing. That was what the Marxist intent was. That's what the USSR wanted. The USSR is not Russia, right? And once everyone understands that, did what I just said to you make sense, right? Because it's really hard. The party system, I believe, is part of the process of changing the old guard, of deconstructing the old guard and saying, that's it, we've had enough. Goodbye. Does everyone get that? The last thing we want is more of the same treason by this British political union, Jibby Savile cult. No, I agree with you. Let me have a look. When Maggie Thatcher stopped the milk at school, I was thinking, what a horrible cow. Yeah, and Trump's just give free milk out to all the kids in America at school. Lucy, 100%. So do you sort of get what I'm getting at? Now, the other quick thing I want to talk to you about, I don't know if I'm going on too long at the moment, but there is so much that's gone on. I don't know whether he's going to, obviously I don't know if he's going to pull the trigger on Iran. I do know there is an immense amount of firepower, not just a battle group, but an aircraft carrier and various other things. But there are planes plotted up everywhere. There's tankers sitting there. There's all sorts of things going on. And it is whether or not Iran decides to pre-strike Israel, which could happen. It's whether or not the United States of America uses this new weapon that they've got, where they can disable the complete launch, artillery, aircraft, everything that you can think of. It's whether or not they can completely shut down the whole of Iran's defense systems, in which case they would annihilate Iran completely, and it would send a message to the whole world. We can do this, and we will do this, but only if you continue on this road. I mean, eventually they could turn. I mean, they could turn around to the Ukrainians and say, you know, if you're not going to play ball, we're going to stop. We're going to stop the war, right? He's just pulled a switch, and everything stops working in Ukraine. 100% he's fucking grifter. Who is? You're looking worked out, Mocha. Who is? I didn't realise we could petition a king for him to make me Prime Minister. Just recognising me. There's a lot of things that you can do. The old way of running this country, and that's what I'm talking about doing, because step by step, the Fabian way. What we need to do is reverse engineer that, and we can easily do it. And then you can go back. We could easily go to full employment, and we want to get rid of all these people. There's other things going on in the background, which I'm quite surprised at. Actually, I'm not that surprised at, to be honest with you. But Elon Musk has threatened to buy an airline, and it would be poetic justice if he bought Ryanair, one of the biggest lefties, bought the company off him, and then allocated the whole airline. There's a guy in America who said he'll charge 25 million and he'll get rid of all of the illegals and all of the criminals in less than 5 years. I think he said 500,000 a month he would get rid of for 25 million, right? 25 billion, sorry. And I think that's being considered. Now, if part of that was to have a full air fleet at your disposal, including its own landing slots, which it looks like Ryanair's got. I don't know where in particular they would go to, but you can see what's going on. Did you get? No, I haven't fixed any of that yet. I've got to get back to the landlady. I was waiting for a phone call from someone, but they ain't rung me. Good evening, Tracy. Where is Will? Where there is a will, there is a way. No, exactly that. Jace. An MP is to serve his or her constituency, not a big corporate donor. Not exactly that. But the problem is, you also have to be very aware of how much money is in politics. I mean, what we're doing on a shoestring. My own opinion is, I think we're having much more of an impact on the educational side, and people realising that we do have a constitution and there is a default position that we can fall back to. And again, because we're so old, we can go back almost on any position that we want. Nosy folk, I'll raise him 30 million. Let me have a quick look. Mick Riley, Trump, gas, only Charles Obama ban, full fat milk. I think Trump would need to his peace partner before doing anything in Iran. There's some strange things going on. You know, I mean, I can't say too much, but and again, there's another reason why Rupert Lowe is definitely near the mark, right? If you look at what he's actually doing in terms of what's it called? the private inquiry and how much has been raised for it, and it's doing it, and they've got everyone lined up, and everyone's going to come along. That is all going to be published. I believe there is a documentary, and it's going to be highly publicised by Elon Musk. When people find out, I read out something earlier on, and that's just one case of someone being stabbed to death, or not someone, a young mother being stabbed to death. Imagine what it's going to be like when they actually say, this is the truth of the rape and torture gangs. And when people fully understand what's gone on, and they will. And the fact that all political parties and all politicians have accepted it, because they all knew what was going on. The Constitution is the only solution for us all. Yeah, no, it is. We'll know exactly why they want more war then. Keep money flowing into their war machines. That's exactly what they want. Right, any questions from anyone of any current event at the moment? Maybe say I've missed something I've watched or whatever. Crypto Rich said British still own most of the old Brit Empire land. Income goes to the crown, loads of billions of acres. Yeah, no, it does. There's things that I don't like. If you used to moor in certain a boat in certain parts of the British Isles, you have to pay an immediate rent to the crown. DD Mark Atwood interview with Andrew Bridgen said he knew that you were going to get stitched up in court. I haven't seen that. Yeah, but he didn't help me. It's the point. He could have done, but he didn't. He decided not to. It's fairly obvious. Again, so if you go back to our court case, we won the first hearing in July. We won the second hearing in June. We won the third hearing in October, which was the appellant court, right? So, but then they swapped out the judges. The whole system is corrupt, and the judges are corrupt. Someone put it out on Twitter the other day. The only way you're going to solve this problem is if you take out the judges. They need to be impeached. The problem with our impeachment process of judges is it is only parliamentarians that can impeach the judges, right? So if you had loads of independents that were elected, yeah, and then we said, right, we're going to go for an impeachment of the judges that have been named, and then prosecute them, by the way, for rape and torture, or acquiescing, omitting, consenting even. Everyone needs to understand what's going on with that. Get me? No, I'm not smoking again. There's a Bridgen, the Judas goat. Invest in rope. Where are we paying millions to the king, and is he letting our country be swamped? Oh, there's another funny thing. I looked on my system the other day, and George Galloway has blocked me. I thought, oh, bear in mind he's exiled. Do you think it was when I said you would be exiled from England, never to be allowed to return to England again? We don't want you here. Anyway, he has blocked me on Twitter. Agree with that, will not. Sharing is caring, so please, yes. So don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to share, and don't forget to subscribe. Subscription to this channel is crucially important this year, because there's a lot of things going on, and I will be getting into discussions about some of the things that we're planning for this year. Don't trust Bridgen, he is a traitor. I don't trust Bridgen, if I'm honest, and the only reason is because there's a couple of things that happened, and one of them was the fact that he completely ignored a veteran constituent that wrote a decent letter for him to read out in Parliament a question to Parliament, and he never did it. He's not a constitutionalist. Non-constitutionalists are very dangerous people. Galloway is a traitor. No, he is a traitor. Without a doubt whatsoever. Here's the Hamlin lectures. Loads to read and learn. Yes, there is. Galloway is rotten to the core. I absolutely agree with you. Let me put that in there. Painting a picture on X that we haven't got a constitution, says it all. Who is that? Yeah. No, again, it's really annoying because he what he'll do is he'll only be led by his barrister friends who have been misinstructed via the slow march through the institutions. That's the problem. And instead of he will not listen. Like, he's got a degree, right? He thinks he's really clever just because he's got a degree. You don't need to have a degree to understand and learn yourself, right? And often, and I still say this, the best form of learning is self-learning. Anyone? Do you know what? I think I told you this before. There was a particular book that I got years ago, maybe 35 years ago, maybe 40 years ago. I think it's still here. Fantastic book, all about circuit presentation for telecommunication. Right, it was one of the best books and best explanations in a book form. It was only about that thick, right? Of every presentation of telecommunications, how the circuit works, how the signaling worked, what were the pinouts, everything you could ever want to know about every type of circuit there was in the world. Right, it was fantastic. Right, and then you think to yourself, this must have been written by a professor. Right, and by the way, the book was bang on. Right, it wasn't. It was written by an airline pilot that had an interest in telecommunications, so he wrote a book about it. That was it, and it was one of the best books I ever read. And he had technically nothing to do with the telecommunications industry, so he was self-educated and understood exactly what all them circuits were. Bridgen is a short man syndrome. Loves the attention. He must be controlled up. Let me have a look. Freedom under the law, so Denning. The judges have no clue our rights are being suppressed. We won energetically on the 5th of November in the snake year. It hasn't stopped the growth of talk about England one bit. It is only accelerating. No, again, and the most important thing, and again, I'm seeing these other people like Advance UK and these people involved with Advance UK and waving the British flag. And Ben Habib, who describes himself as a British Pakistani. No good. Have you seen in America, they're putting, I don't know whether it's been defeated or not, but they're putting a bill through Congress at the moment that forbids anyone being in Congress who is dual nationality. You cannot be in both. You can't have a foot in both camps. I don't trust anyone or anything nowadays. It seems blooming hard to get any gospel these days. However, the English Constitution is God-given and stood the test of time. Chopped tree will return. Bridgen will never talk about Zionists. No. And that's another thing I've noticed as well. People who and it's one of the reasons, I can't remember what their names are, but they're always having a go at the British, which I've got a problem with. But they never mention the Jews. They never mention the Jesuits. And the Jesuits are just as bad as the Jews. I'm talking against the Protestant nation, and realise that England is a Protestant nation. We are under attack. England with Bourval and Graham will get that speech in Parliament. Taffy Pat, I respect Andrew Bridgen for speaking out about the COVID and bioweapon jabs, but not happy to hear doesn't respect our constitution. That's what I mean. So many people don't realise. And I had a long telephone conversation with him. what can I do? The only thing I can do is go around and teach people. We should be housing our veterans first. No, I agree. Is the English Constitution allowed out like the American one? No. It's called a common law constitution, but it is in writing. In most parts, it's in writing and by convention and common law stare decisis. People need to understand that. There are advantages and disadvantages to what's known as a fully codified constitution. We've got a part codified constitution. The English Bill of Rights is part of that. Most modern Hamlin lectures ponder to woke bollocks, thanks living common law and precedents. Check out the English Constitution Society's Facebook page, law to download, file section. Let me go and have a look and see what else we can do up here. That's it. And again, there is potential that we are doing a seminar on the 28th, I think it is, of February, up north in Cumbria. So I'd like to get, I don't know how many people would be able to get along to that, but we're going to need a lot of assistance online in promoting it. But I need to know whether or not people are going to come up there and do that. Check out the English Constitution Society's Facebook page. That's it. I am going to say good night, God bless. I will see you all tomorrow evening. I've got some tidying up to do. I've got some stuff I've got to get around and do at the moment. So I will speak to you all later. I am from Cumbria. Holly, England. Oh, are you? Thank you, DD. Good night. God bless. Thanks, DD. I see there's a seminar in Western Superman. Definitely got. Who said that one? Right, I'm off. Don't forget what I believe in. The Constitution is the solution. I will see you all soon. Good night. God bless. Au revoir.